has that? You played with it?
A little bit.
Okay, so you know kind of what it does with modeling, shading, animating, rendering, compositing, interactive 3D, like game stuff. In our larger meetings, which get upwards of 25, 30 people, there's usually someone in the room that's never seen it before. So I make a point of actually showing Blender before we get too far down the meeting, talking about all the theoretical stuff. So let me just, oh good, okay. So this is Blender. Oh,
Hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed since the last time we looked at it. Okay. All right. So Dave, I think we're ready to start kicking off. If you want to start recording.
All right, it's off.
All right. So welcome everyone to the Blender Westside users group. We call it the Westside group because there's actually a couple of groups here in LA. We've probably been the most, I don't know, I feel like we're the longest running, or at least most consistent. We try to have a meeting about every 2 months. We basically time it around Blender releases. So when there's a new version of Blender, there's stuff to talk about, so we can demonstrate new features and things like that. We've been moving around a little bit, but currently we're hosting here in Marina del Rey, overlooking the beautiful Los Angeles Yacht Harbor. And the nice thing about our meeting is that it's strategically located right next to a big patio pub where we can go and have some lunch and drinks and stuff afterwards and actually nerd out about Blender topics. So normally we just did some introductions around the room and online. Normally I have a section called What's New, where I kind of bring everybody up to speed on what's happened since the last meeting in terms of Blender. But it's, you know, gets longer and longer each time I present it. So I'm trying today to just kick us off and then get out of the way for our speakers instead, so you guys can jump straight into topics. You like that part, or you like it? Okay, well, if people like it, I'll bring it back. But I think what we'll do is we'll probably jump straight into topics. So we have Sam Villa presenting on Magic Lantern HDR video and how to combine that in the Blender video sequence editor. I'm doing a session on an experimental Blender physically based rendering viewport branch, which is pretty cool. So much fun to play with. We'll take a steady break so everybody gets a chance to socialize and talk about what we do. We have Dave Andrade on the line, who's going to be talking about, sorry, TS, shorts and characters, Theory Studios, shorts and characters.
Yeah, baby.
And then, yeah. And then we'll have a project show and tell. So if you've got if something you want to show off, if you can put it on a thumb drive, happy to kind of throw it up on the screen and let you talk it through. And we'll just see what everybody's been working on. Sorry, did you raise your hand for something?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was waiting today, actually.
All right. Well, because we don't really have a kind of a standard slide with a list of everything that's happened since our last Blender meeting, we'll just talk it off the cuff here. So we've obviously had a new Blender release. We're at 2.77a, and there's the Blender developers don't appear to be slowing down at all. They sort of made an announcement they were going to take a big break for a year without development until they developed the 2.8 branch, which is, you know, sort of a full point release worth of architecture changes in the software. But they're developing a 2.78, which has some pretty nifty features, and I downloaded the latest Blender build. Hey, welcome back.
Thank you.
Come join. So I downloaded the latest Blender build. Maybe we could look at some of that stuff, like micro displacement for cycles. Pretty cool. A feature that I've been waiting for a very long time. It's now being baked into the builds. We have things like, help me out here, Sam. Let's see. So it's been a while since 2.77 release, but
they did like minor improvements here and there. But aside of the micro displacement, the noise.
Oh yeah, there's a denoiser by Lucas Stockner.
And it's very good.
Is it really? Oh, that's the first review I've heard of it.
It's not perfect, but I mean, it's doing very good stuff.
So basically, there's a guy named Louis Stockner that's been contributing to the Cycles code. And he's written a denoiser that everybody's very excited about because, as you know, Cycles, you know, it's a renderer we love, but it does tend to be a little grainy and noisy and fireflies and all the rest of it. So hopefully that'll help
Just gotta get it up around 2,000 samples.
Yeah, sometimes I crank it up at 10,000 and go to bed. Right? Just like too lazy to muck around with fine tweaking. Anybody else want to talk about things that have happened in the last 2 months?
The linking part of Blender is really kind of nice in 277. I don't know if you mentioned that, but where if you save something, say like you were linked in a character and you made a proxy, but for some reason that character's gone, what do you do? In 277, all those nodes and everything are preserved within that session when you open it, so you can make a fake user or find where the character's at, or even better, type in a brand new path to that character or set or prop or whatever, and Blender preserves all of that data and puts it right back in. Before, you had to do this awkward thing of like copying over everything, but now links, even if they're broken, you can just go ahead and type in the new path and it will correctly link back to it. So that's actually been a huge time saver for us. It's a pretty neat feature.
Nice.
Yeah. For Studios, Bastian Montague did the ID rework. So relinking files and finding files once you've broken the link is a lot easier. For Studios that link a lot of files, really going to be a big time saver for what they say.
Awesome. So it looks like I'm drawn to the rendering features. I don't know why, but it looks like we have like GPU-based fire and smoke, which is great. So that speeds up. Point density stuff is pretty cool. There's there's a German Blender tutorial guy, Gottfried, I think, that has actually just released a series of, what's that?
Godfrey?
Yeah, Gottfried. He did a point density course, which lets you do some pretty cool things with what looks like, it's sort of like particles, really. Let's see, what else? I guess we got OpenVDBs now finally in the software, which is pretty cool. So we got SS subsurface scattering on GPUs. Let's see. I think, yeah. So we get so our glorious default cube now UV unwraps appropriately, and so do all the other primitives that you could add to Blender. You just hit U unwrap, and they actually unwrap properly. It's really funny. It took us this long to realize that they weren't unwrapping well. Although I will say, looking at how they unwrap, they're not ideal. But let's see, some sculpting. There's a lot of multi-threading support built into certain features like sculpting and painting, which make it a lot more usable. Yeah, I think OpenVDB is a really big one because there's a 2.8 effort to notify all of the particles and notify they call it everything nodes, I think is like what they refer to, where they want to make everything modifiable by nodes. So no more arcane panels. You can actually just drop in nodes and have ultimate granularity. And particles is a big one that there's another guy that's been working on. I can't remember his name, but I'm really looking forward to that. Because particles are a really fun part of the product. All right, so that.
Also, there is one important thing, is the Google Summer of Code.
That's very true. Yeah, under Google Summer of Code. Some really good features. So do you want to explain what Summer of Code is?
Well, every year Google is providing some financial support for some projects, and when they apply for this financial support from Google, if they get accepted for that particular project, then there's a series of different code that gets submitted into the project, and based on that, you get this improvement down the road. Some of these improvements gets into the main official version of Blender, some doesn't go through at the end, but at least there is some code in there that maybe at the end can get into the actual official view.
Yeah, so these are some of the features. So we have multi-camera support in motion tracking, which is kind of neat because if you have 2 cameras, chase camera, that's kind of fun. Let's see, here's the denoiser that Sam's so excited about. Network rendering, which is neat. You can now you now stop and then resume cycles renders, which is fun.
And it's per tile as well, I think.
Yeah, is it? So this actually works well for render farms. If you're rendering on render farms, you can take up a single frame and have a range of samples broken up across different machines, and you can combine them. Obviously, it's like if you have 1,000 samples, you can have like the first 250 on the CPU, the next 250 on the next. That kind of thing. Let's see. Open subdiv support. I'm actually not sure why. I thought Open subdiv was in the product, but let's see. So painting, P-Tex is a big one that's coming. We talked about that in previous meetings. The ability to paint without UV layouts, which is nice. Oh gosh, the list goes on. Lots of stuff. I don't know if I'm looking at the proposed list or the agreed to list. One thing I'm really excited about is updates to the viewport in OpenGL. So there's been a revamp underneath of the OpenGL to bring it up to a minimum spec to allow them to do PBR in the viewport. And I'll be showing an experimental build that's doing that, but there's actually a real project underway, which is neat. Anyways, I thought this was kind of cool. This package manager add-on.
Yeah.
Actually, no, this isn't what I thought it was.
There's a new thing that lets you like zip up the whole project. I don't know if that's in one of the branches, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. I think it got released in the last 2.77, and it lets you just use the add-on. It packages up all the textures, all the files, even the Blender that you're running along with your blend file. And it zips the whole thing up to you. Just give it to somebody, and then they have everything they need to run your project.
Even linked files, which is the best.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip all this because we're turning into the long 10-minute overview that I did before. So, anything else from anyone? Events, tutorials, books you've read? Anything you want to call out?
Well, I've read this book here. This is a great book.
You're handing it.
I've been using it as a Bible for about 3 or 4 months now, and I think it's great. I think it's really, really great. I keep referring to it. I've got pages dog-eared and post-it notes next to them. It helps me jump around and lay out the way it's laid out. I think it's your book. I'm not 100% sure.
It is.
I think I got promoted somehow by someone, and then I ordered it.
I'll give you some cash back.
All right. Anyway,
It's PR agent.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for writing it.
Yeah, it's an awesome book. I read it as well.
Giving a lot.
So for those that are on the line, we're basically talking about Sam Villa's Blender Visual Effects book, which we'll drop a link. Is there an easy link that we can drop in?
Just in Amazon, fine.
Okay.
So it's not CRC Press anymore, or is it?
Yeah, it's the same, but
is.
it gets distributed by different.
Cool. I get a lot of mail from them now. So.
I don't have control over that.
All right.
I got one update too.
Sure.
First of all, if you search for Sam Villa Blender, be careful because there's actually like an ironing board. So it's actually the other link. Anyways, here's the link for everybody. I just posted it in Zoom, the Zoom chat. So this is something that's going to be announced in the next few days with Ton and everybody at blender.org. But this year at SIGGRAPH, we're going to be hosting a Blender Spotlight series. Theory and, well, Sterling, you're going to be involved with this, whether you want to or not. But Theory and Sterling, we're going to be hosting this Spotlight series. And what it is right after, if anybody's been to SIGGRAPH, there's a Sunday event, that big bit where Ton goes over everything. And then there's a second half, kind of like a community section. And this year, we decided to do it more of a spotlight, where we're going to pick best projects, best things that we can have, and take 2 minutes to present and talk about it. A little bit like dailies at SIGGRAPH, a little bit of like a show and tell, a little bit kind of like what we do here, but we want to try to bring it down to like a couple of minutes per presentation. So, long story short, if anybody here is interested at presenting at the Blender Spotlight series at SIGGRAPH, it's free. You don't need to pay to get in. SIGGRAPH is at the end of July. It's yeah, actually, it's a pretty good thing to go pull up. So SIGGRAPH is at the end of July. This is on a Sunday at around like 3 or 4 o'clock. I can't remember the time that he had reserved. And we're just looking for projects. We're looking for anybody who wants to show off either a piece of art or some tests that they've done, some animation, anything. Anything that you have, we'd love to talk about it and show it. And if you're there, like I said, it's a free event. You don't need to pay, minus to, you know, parking for the convention center. SIGGRAPH is hosted in Anaheim this year, so it's not terribly far. And hopefully all of you can come out. You know, I'd really love to have a great showing there. So if you have a project or you'd like to show something off at SIGGRAPH this year for the Spotlight series, send me an email. It's david@theorystudios.com, and we'll get you set up.
Let's see. Let's get the dates for SIGGRAPH. SIGGRAPH 2016. So it looks like it's 24th to 20th of July. Like Dave says, it's free to show up for the Blender Birds of a Feather event. It costs money to get into the conference, but Birds of a Feather, at least at the LA Convention Center, you can just walk straight in and walk up into the event. Hopefully it's the same in Anaheim. I could imagine it wouldn't be. But if you're into computer graphics, this conference is awesome. If you can afford a full conference pass, I encourage you to do so. It gets you into the expo floor and all of the technical sessions where you'll have visual effects companies and large animation studios kind of talking through how they did the movies that we all know and love, as well as there's like science and art. It's kind of mashed together. It's really nice. Anyways, the Blender guys will usually have a booth there. You can swing by and say hi to them.
Yeah, so they have a booth, and Sunday they have like the conference, the Blender conference. So it'll be really fun. So if anybody's around, I think it starts around noon or so and goes till about 5 or 6. And then there's like typically like a drinking session or something afterwards, right? Everybody kind of goes out for a little bit. You get to meet all the developers. So that's in at the end of July. Cool.
Awesome.
On to you, Sterling.
Thanks, Dave. Great. Do you have any setup you need to do? We didn't really talk about that.
No, I just need to plug the memory card.
Okay. Cool. All right. So we're going to switch gears here. We get Sam Villa presenting on Magic Lantern, HDR video, and the VSC. Over to you, Sam.
Hi, everyone online. So I don't know if you are familiar with Magic Lantern or HDR video. I don't know if any of you have been playing around.
Yes.
I know you've been.
Yeah, I've got a Canon, and I downloaded this in Magic Lantern.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what we're talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So have you been messing around or playing with
Yeah,
it?
a lot. I haven't. I mean, I use it through my camera.
Mhm.
So, and I haven't done it in a little while. So, but yeah, I'm very familiar with it. And I use the sequence editor all the time.
That's great. So
hopefully
maybe.
And I've been following your book, so maybe you got something magical to show me.
Well, in my book doesn't say anything about HDR video, so maybe it's a new topic, you know. The good thing of this particular presentation is that it doesn't have to be only related to Canon models of cameras. If you have other cameras as well, obviously if you have a Canon with Magic Lantern, that will be the perfect setup for these HDR videos. There is cameras that they do HDR video right away, so you don't have to do any compositing tricks or any fancy stuff. But also you can do, or you can achieve something similar with any camera that you have. Obviously you have more limitations because you can only have like static environments pretty much. So if there is some air on the trees or something like that, or someone crossing by, it's going to produce some artifacts and it's not going to be nice. But you can pretty much do this with any camera. Basically, for example, if you have like a control remote camera, like a robotic movement for a camera, you can just record the same movement twice with different exposures. And then you can do this in composition to mix both exposures and get the best of both exposures. So right now I'm going to show you on the camera itself. This one it's much easier because you don't have to play around with recording twice and everything is doing everything into one shot. So the way it works is like it's interpolating, well, it's recording each frame into different exposure. So for example, with the frame number 1, you get an ISO of 100, for example. In frame number 2, you get 1600 or 16,000 ISO. And then next frame, it goes back to ISO 100. And it's kind of like mixing both frames, both ISOs, sorry, in each frame. So you'll see that it's kind of like flashing the light on the video. And it's kind of like weird when you play it on the camera directly, but that's when Blender comes in and then you have to break down these frames and merge it in a different way. So let me show you this. So I recorded this morning, and the camera is going to see. So this is what it gets recorded in the camera. It doesn't show in the camera, in the webcam directly. But you can see.
I can see the flickering. Yeah.
You see the flickering, right?
Yeah.
We'll show the flickering right now in the computer, and it's going to be more noticeable. So this flickering is the difference in the ISOs. It goes from 100 to 16,000. So there's like a big difference in exposition that you get on each frame. So now we are going to, once you have this recording, we can transfer this into the computer. Okay, so we get the file. So this is the flickering that I was telling you. So you can see we have like an underexposed frame, and the next frame is an overexposed frame. So obviously, the point here is to get the best thing from both expositions into a nice, evenly lighted shot, pretty much. So we are going to split these frames on Blender, and then we're going to merge it. And we will have very much control over the lighting to adjust all the lights, all the exposition for both exposures, and it should be like having a nice final video. So let's open Blender. Okay, so one thing that I have to explain about this is that because it's like
There's a minimize button on that.
it's fine. One thing is like, because it's like integrating frame by frame with different exposures, the final result is going to be half of that frame rate. So let's say, for example, if you shoot at 30 frames a second, because it's getting each frame a different exposure, when you do the edit, you're going to have like a 15 frames a second, and you don't want that, obviously. So for this video, for example, I recorded to 60 frames a second. So that will give me an end result of 30 frames per second with the right exposure. So the first thing I need to do is I need to set up the frame rate to 30, even though that the original video is 60. So we are going to split the channels. So we go to the video sequence editor. Let's load the video. We can kill the audio.
Oops.
Yeah. Okay, so we have the video here. So in order to split the different expositions on the video, one trick is to just select the video and then add a speed control. So we open the sidebar, and here on the speed control, if we speed up the video by 2, what we get is we just get like a different frame. Like we get like 1, 3, 5, 7, and we can split the frames by just doing this. So now we multiply the speed. We have now a 30 frames per second video, and we only get one of the ISO's exposures. So we don't see the flickering anymore, which is what we wanted. So we can now group these, and I can duplicate this. So now we are going to group this one first. So we need to offset now the video, the new clip, so we get the underexposure. So just, you can move it, just 1 frame. You can go to the duration and just offset 1 frame. So now we get only the underexposed video. So now if we open, for example, the histogram, we can see in the underexposed that the blacks are below the ideal, which is this red line. So all this is going to be lost, all this information. So what we want is, we want to use the first, the more lighter areas. And in the other one, if we hide these two, we see like the histogram is kind of like in the opposite way. So we have all the blacks the way we want, but the highlights are overexposed. So now we are going to combine both. So let's group both. So just as easy as you go to the blend mode and you put gamma cross. And in the gamma cross, the opacity, you put it to 0.5. So now you get like an evenly exposed shot. You get the best part of both videos very much. Yeah. So you can see the before. Let's see if I can open this is the overexposed video. And this is the corrected one. So you get all the detail of the highlights and the blacks on the same screen. And on top of that, you can also adjust each individual clip so you can have additional control.
Seems like a sequence there.
Yeah, once you apply the speed control, the length of the clip, it gets cropped.
Okay.
So I think the clip ends around here. even though that you see the clip continue, is because you speed up the clip by twice. So it will be half of this.
So you're saying your speed control factors doesn't stretch the duration of the video? Or?
You can do it in a different way, but just applying a double the speed on the clip, it will separate the expositions into the different ones, and pretty much just leave it with this. You know, it's just double. But also you can reduce this, but then you have to adjust the speed control. So there is different factors in here. For example, you can say strength, input strip length. So if you uncheck this, it depends of how short do you want to do it. You can do it like this as well. It's just like much faster to do it like this, you know.
Oh, Blender? Yeah, Blender. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I think that's good.
So then you can adjust individually by just adding the color correction. So you can adjust the underexpose without affecting the highlights. Or you can adjust the highlights. And then the histogram, with adjusting the color grading, you can see in here. You can still tweak this a little bit more.
Who here does video sequence editing in Blender? A little bit? Yeah. Yeah. It's not this full featured, right? It's some of the other alternative packages, but it's pretty capable. Yeah. It's getting better all the time. There's been a real focus on it lately with the open movies that have been putting PSC pictures.
And now you can see the histogram is more like even all over the place. So it doesn't have any spikes, so it gets out of the scale, or it doesn't have any crops. So it's more even, and the quality that you can have on this kind of video, you have more flexibility to do color grading or any other stuff. So that will be my presentation. I don't know if you have any questions.
Pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Magic Lantern is so cool.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't believe there's guys out there that just like dig into, like reverse engineer Canon source code to make our lives that much better.
And it's still being worked on, right? The people still.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's.
You know, they're developing the software for that open source cinema camera.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it. Yeah, there's an open source cinema camera out of the Netherlands.
Apertis, right? Or something like that.
Huh?
Apertis.
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, I don't know how it's
Apertis, there you go.
You could be right.
This looks pretty cool. So
And then the Magic Lantern's developing the software.
you wanna describe quickly Apertis, what that's all about?
I think I've said everything I know about it. But it's an open source. It was a Kickstarter, and it's an open source cinema camera to try and do what like more expensive cameras the Red can do. And Magic Lantern's developing software for it, so I presume they'll have that feature in there. They have a couple different versions. They have the beta, which I believe will be smaller, but
like all cinema cameras, it's a la carte. You have to build it, each individual part. You'll have one part that's, the card reader, one part that's a lens mount and the like. And now that I think about it, that new craft system is being built that way as well. Another cinema camera that got announced.
The one that is modular, that you can build.
Yeah, look up a craft cinema camera as well. That's something that got announced at, there you go, Magic Land.
Mm.
And the craft cinema camera got announced at NAB. They were teasing it before then, but and that's completely modular. You build it like piece by piece. Craft cinema camera, and individual pieces, and you can see like visually exactly what that looks like. Each feature is a piece of hardware.
Is this one also open source hardware or no?
No, it's not. But they're going the Black Magic route. They're making mostly, it's going to be affordable. I don't know if it'll ever happen. It's vaporware at this point. But, they announced it at NAB. It's going to be affordable. Once you build it, like somewhere else on here, once you build a complete camera, you're talking about 4K, about $5,000, as opposed to, that's Black Magic right there. Yeah, reverse. That's
anybody here at NAB, at NAB?
No, my company went, but I stayed that.
I was curious about the Lytro. Yeah, that's what I was going to bring. That camera is like $1 billion though, but I was very curious about it.
This thing is awesome. So I know Sam would be following this. So Lytro has introduced a cinema camera that captures in full light field. So it captures the 3D space in the scene as well as all the light rays that are traveling through that space. So there's no more 3D reconstruction on the PC because the actual cinema camera captures it for you just natively. So merging CD to live action and CG just got a lot easier, but only if you're uber rich. This thing comes with basically its own server rack that sits next to it because it's capturing like, terabytes and terabytes, probably petabytes of data. Yeah, look at that. So 300 FPS, 16 stops of dynamic range, 755 raw megapixels. It's a beast. We'll see if they get the kind of traction that folks like Red do, but it's pretty cool stuff.
Speaking of cameras, I don't know if anybody wants to. I just bought this. We work across the street from Digital Domain, and one of the guys who is one of my customers, he bought one of these cameras to do 360-degree spherical panorama HDRs.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody done played with these or getting a 360-degree?
No, I personally have not. I've seen him demo it, but so, what I've been wondering is, can you? So 360 spherical panoramas are super handy for creating HDR image-based lighting for Blender, but only if you can take the same shot at multiple exposure values. I've been wondering if these cameras are capable of that.
A visual effects guy developed an iOS app that will control this camera and do several different HDRs, anywhere from 3 to 9 exposures.
That's so cool.
So I have it.
Because the biggest pain in the ass about using a DSLR for doing those is you have to take 170 shots to get a spherical stereo in HDR, because every position on the camera you have to take 5 to 6 shots and then move it and then 5 to 6 shots, and it takes you 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Where something you could do mirror ball, but they're lower quality. Whereas something like this, you can actually take an HDR almost instantaneously, right? However long it takes you.
It takes about a minute.
However long, a minute compared to 30 minutes. Oh, you're going to give us an HDR? That's so cool. Awesome. So for those that aren't in the room, our friend here's got a 360 handheld camera, and he's trying to take a HDR spherical shot for us. Yeah, we could use this in our CG renders. It'd be fun. Okay, awesome. Let's. I think let's just keep on moving. We'll jump into the next topic here. Keep going on that, and then we'll loop back to you and see what that photo looks like. We'll bring it up on here. Okay, awesome. All right, guys. So I'm going to move on to the next topic here, which is Blender PBR Viewport branch. So I will. So again, my name is Sterling Getz, if you came in late. And our group, by the way, here in LA has grown. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's 8 of us now in person. So I'll start this by saying I'm an artist, or even more specifically, a hobbyist artist, not even a professional artist, not a developer. So my understanding of the code behind what I'm about to show you is limited. But I'll show you what I know and what I've been playing around with. I'll start just by saying this is the splash screen for the branch, and this is taken straight out of the viewport. So the kind of materials that you see here, the lighting, that's all possible in the viewport, which is pretty cool. It's getting a lot closer to a game engine, basically, if you have it. So let's start with, what is the viewport branch? It's an unofficial Blender branch written by a gentleman named Clément. I'm going to try and pronounce this right. Clément Foucault. Sorry, Clément. Clément. I see the accent on the E there. Anyways, he goes by Hypersomniac on Blender Artists. He's got a thread. And the original goal was to, he's a game artist, so to be able to preview game assets and shaders using the node editor that's native to Blender, just like Unreal Editor or Marmoset Toolbag. The goal has kind of evolved a little bit for him now. He's trying to support cycle shading and physical lights in real time in the viewport. So I think it's a really worthy goal. This is another kind of test scene that he has. So again, this is the viewport, right? You could actually see, standard controls from the viewport. Some of the pros that you get when you're doing that is that it's a lot less grainy than rendered mode in Blender, right? If you hit Control Z and you rotate around, it's like grainy and it takes a while to like sharpen up. And it's kind of annoying. You can't see your mesh wires and that kind of thing. Because our cards are so much, our video cards today are so optimized for OpenGL, and this is all GLSL shading that's happening in the viewport, it actually takes very little utilization to render correctly in the viewport versus Cycles. It's really heavyweight because it's doing all the proper ray tracing, multiple ray bounces, all the rest of it. The disadvantages of it is that it's not in trunk. It is an experimental build. He's offered to, to the Blender folks that are running the official viewport project, feel free to steal any of this code, put it in trunk, would love to see it. So that's great. The conversation's happening between those two guys. But 2.78 will come out, and then there'll be another build of this that'll trail that by a week or two. And it depends, I guess, on how busy Clément is at the time. It's less accurate than ray tracing, right? I mean, you can't, obviously, if you're creating transparent materials in the viewport, you can't go through like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bounces because it's just going to slow down the viewport, right? So it usually does a couple of bounces to give you an idea. And there's a few cheats he uses. So what is PBR? Anybody here not familiar with the term PBR? Okay, so if you Google for PBR, you normally get either Pabst Blue Ribbon, the beer, or the Professional Bull Riding Association, or Professional Bull Riders, right, PBR. So it's neither of those things. PBR stands for physically based rendering, and it's a physics-centric approach to creating materials that allows for more accurate, real-world accurate, and predictable results under different lighting conditions. So it's really gained a lot of speed in the last couple of years. It's been around forever, but it's really gained a lot of speed and adoption by CG, visual effects studios, game developers, because I could develop something in, on my workstation using my own shaders, and then if we bring it into a different system, as long as I've been using physically based approaches, it should look good in another system as well. And the idea is that you do things like apply conservation of energy principles to light rays and things like that. I'm not going to go into great detail here because there's a load of information on the internet about this. I actually have a, hold on, let's see, just get back to my presentation here. Nope, I didn't keep it. I think over here, I've got one of those resources. Let's go to that hyperlink. So if you haven't been out to Polycount, it's a great website, kind of dedicated for game developers. There's a whole suite of really good PBR guides that have been written mostly by the people that write software that develops PBR shaders. But I recommend you go out and take a look at that. It's called Polycount. So this is wiki.polycount.com. So anyway, this is a screenshot from one of those guides, the complete PBR guide by Algorithmic. So let's just step back a bit and talk a little bit about rendering and shading in Blender. So it turns out when you talk about rendering and shading in Blender, it's actually pretty complex. There's several different ways you could render and shade things in Blender. First of all, there's the Blender renderer, which is also known as Blender Internal. That's the legacy render engine. Really popular still with non-photorealistic render-based animators. There's, although, you know, Cycles is getting more and more popular there. And then there's the Blender game engine, which is fundamentally based on OpenGL, from my understanding. I know almost very little about the game engine. I'm not an expert there, but then we have our Cycles render, which uses kind of BSDF style ray tracing and also supports the open shading language. So you can do interactive node-based materials, or if you want to write your own code, you can use OSL to do that. And then we have the viewport, which under Blender Internal, we use this thing called multi-texture. But more and more, as we move to Cycles, we're using GLSL, which is a graphics library shading language. And GLSL shaders are kind of what's used today in the viewport. And again, the photorealism of what we've had in the viewport today has really been limited by the very legacy version of OpenGL that Blender's been using. And they have been doing that for a couple of reasons, to support a really wide range of hardware, right? Blender runs on some pretty old hardware, which is great for, you know, if you're in a developing nation and you have no money, you could still download and run the software. But the time has come to upgrade that. So with 2.77, they've set a baseline of OpenGL 2.1 as a minimum, and that enables us to do lots more in the viewport. And 2.8 is actually going to make an even larger jump to what's called the GL 3.2 core profile, which has a whole bunch of OpenGL features that allows us to do pretty cool stuff. So recently, there's been a bunch of viewport enhancements like ambient occlusion, depth of field, and so forth, and those are really awesome, but it's nowhere, it's not in the same category as what's happening elsewhere. Like Pixar has just last week open sourced something they call a Hydra viewport. Pixar uses a animation package called Presto, and they have a viewport that's optimized for animation. So it literally, so they use it for movies like Finding Dory that's coming out. There's a link at the end of this presentation where you can see them presenting on that, where they have millions of instance stingrays all kind of swimming through the viewport at the same time, and there's zero slowdown. It's just incredibly well geared for computing on GPU, very well multi-threaded, and so it's those kinds of concepts that we really want to bring into Blender. So Sergey Sheribin, who's one of the Blender developers, has been kind of poking around at what Pixar's doing, and we hope to know more about that later.
John started a conversation with them.
They just started it. Yeah, it's on the Blender developers thread that Ton says he thinks he can get an early drop of it from them. The one qualifier there is that it's really geared for animation, not photorealism, right? So it's highly optimized for that. So the Blender, you know, I will say the Blender Foundation is working on doing all this stuff, but the Blender PBR Viewport kind of gives it to us today. So it's really kind of a sneak peek at the future. All right. So what does it do? So it brings a whole bunch of stuff. This isn't a comprehensive list. I've just pulled out a few things that would be fun for us to look at today. It includes world environment reflections. So if you drop an HDRI into the scene, you can put in a viewport probe that allows you to reflect that HDRI and reflect the materials in the scene, like you see here on this plane here. You can see normal maps in the viewport, which is really fun when you're building materials. It's a hell of a lot more fun when things look like they've got some depth to them. Specular reflections are enhanced. There's physical lamps that apply PBR principles. You get spotlight shadows, color correction, and Clement has enhanced a whole bunch of nodes in the system to behave in a more PBR-like fashion, and you actually get some new node options as you're going through and building materials. So this picture is credit Jonathan Lampal, who actually has a nice PBR viewport video. It's a really short kind of look at it, and he shows you how to muck around with it. So let's go ahead and do a demo. This, by the way, again, is just a shot straight from the viewport. Clement's working on a model, and he does some painting on his website. You can kind of see him editing straight in the viewport. So I'm going to close this Blender just so I don't confuse myself. We'll go back here and grab the PBR branch. Okay, so this is the viewport build here. Go ahead and maximize this. Hey Dave, you guys still hearing us?
Oh yeah, we're checking it out.
Okay, good.
It looks great.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm gonna start, let me just do this real quick because I literally just loaded this Blender up. I'm gonna add the node wrangler, which I can't live without. You guys familiar with the node wrangler? That's pretty cool. So Bartek Skorupa and Greg Zoll and Sebastian Koenig have all contributed to it. Dramatically, and I'll actually show you a couple ways they do that. I think this is one of those add-ons that just needs to belong in Blender by default. So the first thing we'll go ahead and grab this, maybe bring it up on Blender unit, maybe add a ground plane underneath it so we can see what shadows and that look like. I'm going to maybe give this ground plane a darker color. And what I'll do here is I'm going to add a new workspace, and I'll call this PBR Viewport. I'm adding a new workspace because I saw somebody one time complaining about how when people give demos, they change the default viewport, and noobs that are following along at home then can't get out of that newly laid out viewport because they can't figure out how to close windows and merge and so forth. So I'm trying to practice best practice here. We'll go ahead and change this to the node editor. Let's give this a new material. We'll call it ground. We definitely want to use nodes. Let's see. Oh, we're in the wrong engine. Here we go. Go to cycles. That's good. Kill that. Start over. With ground. We'll give this ground a dark color so our material shows up a little bit better. Let's go ahead and add an HDRI into the scene. So use nodes, environment texture. I'm going to navigate over here to this. This HDRI comes from Greg Zoll. He's just published a whole bunch of. He's down in Africa, and he shoots HDRIs and sells the packs online. I've been looking at his latest, and this one in particular has got a decent exposure value range, which means the shadows show up really nice and crisp. Not all the HDRIs in that collection do that, by the way. Some of them are pretty low in range. Okay, so I'm going to hit N to get into the control panel. Go down here under display and maybe show world background. So you can see the HDRI showing up here. Okay, so let's look at what this looks like rendered. Right, we haven't really applied any materials to this cube, so that's fine. Let's take a look at what it looks like under material render. That's what it looks like today. So let's do this. Let's give this cube some materials. So I'm going to hit Control 4 to give it a subsurf scattering level 4. And actually we'll increase that so we can see it in the render. Shade this smooth so it's nice and smooth. So what I'm going to do here is I need to UV unwrap this cube. So I'm going to do this quick and dirty. Do a smart unwrap, give it a little island margin so it doesn't sit all over itself. And that's what I'm going to do. That's a terrible unwrap. Don't do this at home. You're going to see some seams, but for our demo purposes, it'll be fine. All right, let's change this to a glossy node, just for fun. Okay, this is what a glossy node looks like in the viewport. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here into the world properties, and there's something called a viewport probe that's enabled automatically, so that's great. So if we go to rendered mode, whoops, did I do that on the wrong object? I may have, hold on. Back to solid mode, grab this. I did. Okay, let's call this cube. Let's take this diffuse, make it a glossy. Let's see what that looks like rendered. Yeah, it gives us a little bit better view. So as we rotate around, you can actually see like this, this thing is created a viewport probe that allows our material to reflect the entire HDRI in the scene, which is pretty cool. So let's see. Let's get into material mode. And what you'll see here is it looks pretty much like Legacy Blender. And that's because we haven't selected this little button down here. This is called Realistic Material Preview. So if you select this, it's actually going to compile the GLSL shaders in the viewport to be able to give you a better experience, more like cycles. So this is the little magic button that you need to hit, right? That's Legacy Blender, what it looks like when you're modeling. This is PBR Viewport Blender, right? So you can now rotate around this in real time, right? Unlike the cycles render engine, let's go over here. So here's cycles, here's me trying to rotate, right? It's like, takes a while to catch up. It's like, oh, you rotated, hang on, let's just render out again. It's like, it's really laggy. It's actually doing better than I thought it was gonna do. Let's see, what are we, we're doing this entirely on CPU, so let's enable the GPU here. This meager little GPU on my laptop. There we go. Let's see if that's any better. Nope. Here's me trying to rotate. Okay, let's switch over to PBR Viewport. Here's me rotating, right? So it's just, it's more responsive. You get to see your mesh wires. You actually get to edit things like, you know, you can grab your lamps, move them around. Let's grab a lamp, move it down here. You can actually see it reflected. Yeah.
How many render samples do you put in?
It's,
Does that matter, or the preview samples?
yeah, so let's see. So when I'm in rendered mode, let me switch to rendered mode. That is, let's go down here to sampling. That is 32 is the preview. So when I'm in material mode, which is the GLSL viewport mode, the really it's really real time. So there's a certain number of bounce settings, but for the most part, there's no render samples because it's rendered in real time. Kind of hard to get your head around, I know, but that's the truth of it. All right.
What if you raise the render sample from 3%? Change anything? What made it go slower?
So for this mode, which is the cycles rendered mode, it absolutely would make it go slower, right?
I'm talking about the other.
So this mode, the quality settings that you have are located. Let me show you where those are. Let's see. Wait, am I in the right mode? Material mode. There we go. So you have a couple different things you could use for quality here. There's a quality number. I usually leave it at 1, but that will kind of determine how hyper-realistic the viewport is. If you crank it up to 5, it improves some stuff, but it slows you down a little bit. So there's a lot of people, because this is so, because you can click only render and get rid of all the ugly Blender viewport modeling tools. You can literally just render straight from the viewport, and there's a lot of people creating really awesome animations right out of the viewport using OpenGL rendering instead of cycles rendering. And so obviously before you do that, you want to crank this up to 5, right? For the model that we're looking at here, you're not going to notice the difference. So let me just show you a couple of other things. And the other settings you can muck around with are this viewport probe, right? So you can muck around with the reflection quality. You can muck around with, the diffuse quality. And obviously the higher you crank these settings, the slower it can get. So let's do some playing around. Let's see, this is a glossy. Let's call this cube glossy. Let's create a new material. We'll call it cube ground. So we've got what is this? Diffuse. Jeez, it's really small. Let's see if we can make that better. Okay, so here's an example of node wrangler in action. I'm just highlighted this diffuse setup, and I'm just going to say add texture setup. And what I did was it added an image texture, a mapping, and a texture coordinate node. How many times have you repeatedly have to do that? And it just knows everybody does that. So it's super cool. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate out here. I've got some textures. So let me show you what this is. So this is just a texture map. It's got a crackled ground displacement, which you won't be using, a normal map, and a specular map. So we're going to go ahead and grab the ground, put that into the diffuse, and immediately, here's, hold on, let me show you guys. So here's how Blender viewport looks normally. Here's the more realistic viewport. And what you'll notice is shadows are a little bit better represented. Let me get that back. Lighting is actually affected, which is kind of nice. But let me show you even better than that. Whoops. Grab the right thing. There we go. I'm going to Shift-D, duplicate this node. I don't know what happened there. There it goes. Let's give myself a little more node space. So I'm going to add a normal map in here. So first thing I do, make sure I take the same UV layout. Second thing I do is add non-colored data, because normal maps, you don't want them the color getting clipped. Third thing I'm going to do is navigate to the actual normal map itself. So if you're not familiar with how to create nodes, normal maps contain information that explains the surface normal in a way that allows you to see more 3D depth on an object. So it'll make these cracks show up a little bit more. You need to add a vector normal map node here, put the image texture into there, and then we'll just make a little room here. And then take the normal and put it into there. And let's see if we can do this in a way that makes it show up. So it makes it look a little bit more realistic. You'll notice, so the light is being affected now by that. And what we'll do to make this even better is maybe duplicate this. I really need more space there. I'm used to working on a 4K monitor, so this is kind of killing me to work on a laptop. Grab everything, move it down, grab this, up. Okay, I'm gonna grab a specular map and add a shader, mix shader, slap it in here. That little feature where your nodes move to make room, how awesome is that? That was something that, there's a German group that also has a meeting just like this, and they hired a developer to develop that feature and then contribute it back into the code. So if you guys know developers here in LA who think who would be a good addition to Blender, it'd be kind of fun to maybe group source a feature that we like that. All right, so I'm gonna take a shader, a glossy shader, slap it into this mix. You can see immediately we get glossy and specular features, but it's glossy across the whole object, which is not really what you need. And that's what a spec.
That's the PBR?
That's the PBR. Well, that's rendering in general with nodes, but the PBR is what is allowing us to see all that glossy and reflection in the viewport itself. Yeah. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take that specular map and make that the mix factor, and that chills out that gloss a little bit. And we could use a math node to actually enhance that a little bit between those two. But let's see. Well, first of all, let's take this glossy and move the roughness all the way down. And roughness, by the way, on diffuse and glossy materials totally show up in the viewport. It's really cool. And so what you'll start to see is reflections from lights in the scene on this. So I've tried to make this a little bit more reflective. Let's get my lamp. Where's my lamp? There it is. And you'll notice as we get close, you know, the lamp affects the material and it affects the ground around it. So we're getting a full experience here. You can see shading is happening. There's sharp specular reflections I was just trying to show. So anyways, super cool. All that's running on a laptop. So let's see, what else can I show you? Let's actually just focus on lamps for a second here. I'm gonna grab the cube. I'm gonna give it, let's see, give it back the glossy material, and we'll just muck around with this lamp for a minute. There's our lamp. And go up here and just zero out everything to do with the lamp, and grab it in Z, move it up. And what I'm gonna do is change the lamp type to be a spot lamp for starters. And let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna change my ground material a little bit. Maybe lighten this up. And what is this? This is a glossy. I accidentally changed this to glossy, which is not really helpful. Let's make this a diffuse. There we go. So another feature you'll notice is the glossy spot lamps, which is pretty cool. So let's just grab this guy and then rotate it. If you muck around in the settings here, like the spot lamp size, for example. Oh, my bad. Undo that. It is a spot lamp size here. You know, you can play around with this in real time. Whoa.
Question about textures.
Okay. Just one second. And then to the spot lamp size here, you can play around with the actual resolution of the shadow map is what the spot lamp size now does. And if you get in here, you know, you can muck around with the blend, which is the penumbra, I think it's called, which is obviously how blended the edge of the spot lamp is with the rest of the scene. And again, you know, we're doing all of this in real time. Another feature I might show you is, I'm just going to go up here and zero these out again. 0, 0. Grab and Z. We just bring this sucker up. I'm going to change it to a, let's see, change it to area lamp. So area lamps are square. I don't know how this ended up. Grab and Z. Let's do this. Escape. Grab and Z. Bring it up. There we go. Eek. Grab and Z. Grab and Z. There we go. We don't really need all that node space. So area lamps kind of show up as squares. So if we like size this on Y, bring it out. I don't know why it's offset, but let's do that. And then we can Shift D on, whoops, grab on X, move it over. Shift D, grab on X, move it over. So if you're doing things like, I don't know, modeling a car, you know, you can actually create lamps and the specular reflections in them. You can see them live in the viewport. So you even need to render to know kind of how your product shot or whatever is gonna do. You can color these nodes, you know, and the viewport updates, right? So let's do this red. Let's maybe do this green. Let's do this one blue, I guess. And it all just kind of updates live. I think the last feature I'll show, let me get rid of some of these. Where are we? Lamp. Just change this back to 0.8. Last thing I'll show is that there's a color management feature in here. Do you see this apply color management? So go ahead and hit that. And then if we go into the scene settings, down here under color management, if you work a lot in color management, I generally don't. Some people like these look tab here, so you can select them and actually apply directly in the viewport. So these are different film types that give the viewport, you know, a different feel. So if you're following like Gleb Alexandrov's like lighting series, he's a real fan of this kind of thing. So, you know, you can give it old time film looks, that kind of thing. I'm going to set this back to none. Okay, with that, I'll stop. Noel, you had a question?
Oh, I just, when you were doing the textures?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I'm actually doing right now is I'm doing a lot of transferring models into Unity and Blender.
Uh-huh.
And I was doing a lot of rigging, but now I have to do some texturing.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things is I need to do is I need to separate the skin from the clothing.
Uh-huh.
And so in other words, I need multiple textures, and I'm just kind of, I kind of understand the general concepts, but I don't, it's new to me a little bit.
Okay.
In practice, so to speak.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, okay, that's really cool. That one thing that you were talking about that prints out that pops up all of those textures, those nodes. What was it? The node wrangler?
Node wrangler. Yep.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I suppose. But in Unity, they have 3 different types of textures. There's the albedo texture, which I believe is ambient occlusion. I think it's just another name.
Albedo is closer to like pure diffuse.
Okay.
AO
And
is.
then, of course, they have the normal maps.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have another map, which is basically the skin or the cloth, I mean, the actual colors. And so because of the nature of what I'm doing, it's kind of like a assembly line. Like it's a sports player, and he has different uniforms, and maybe I would like to add that he has a different face. So in other words, I need 2 material or 2 textures for the same object. And so I'm just trying to in my mind, so to speak, try to verbalize it, try to understand the concepts verbally,
Sure.
so to speak. So albedo is not ambient occlusion.
No.
No. Okay.
And others, feel free to pitch up here, like if you're an expert. So sounds like, so are you trying to combine multiple textures in Unreal Engine, or are you trying to do it in Blender?
No, in Unity.
In Unity, sorry.
But I'm,
So
I said, but yeah, I am doing it in Blender. I mean, I'm creating the textures in GIMP, but I suppose I could do it in Photoshop, but regardless. And then I want to try to develop my skill in taking those 3 maps, putting them into Blender, testing them in Blender, because I do modeling and rigging in Blender,
sure.
and then be able to transport everything to Unity, as opposed to, say, do the textures in GIMP, put them in Unity, bring the other thing in there, and then start testing what it looks like. So when you brought up this topic, obviously my mind started churning about, oh, okay, this is interesting, so I need to. And I'd say that my overall goal, I suppose, is probably to find an assembly line type of workflow. But that's what I'm looking at right now. My understanding is albedo and normal maps and just the regular skin or cloth maps. And so I thought it was interesting when I took a model from Blender, put it into what I did was I imported an FBX file, extracted the mesh, and then re-exported it into an FBX file, and then put the FBX file in the Unity. Personally, I do not have the ability to separate the skin and the clothing yet. And I don't understand. So when I drag and drop the texture into the using Unity, it the whole mesh takes on that one texture, as opposed to no. I only want the uniform to go on where the chest, within the UV mark charts or whatever they call it.
There's a post here in the chat, a YouTube video that maybe you want to pass it on about how albedos work too. That might be pretty helpful, because typically albedo is without any lighting. It's just kind of like you were saying, straight diffuse or whatever. It's just trying to be just straight color. So it's pretty. I've actually seen this video before. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so maybe you want to pass that on or watch that during a break or something.
Do we have an email that you send the notes of this meeting, or no, not really?
Totally. Yeah. This meeting's also being recorded, so as soon as it's done, I'll upload it, and I'll make sure that this link's in there as well.
My goal is 2 things. 1, I have a deadline, and 2, I want to learn the bigger picture as opposed to just do it step by step.
So I would strongly recommend going to that Polygon wiki site and read everything you can about PBR textures. That explains the theory behind it. I do know that developing textures in Blender and Unity, the Unity folks would tell you, build your textures in Unity, right? Because
no, they're actually you can do it in Blender.
Are they?
Blender,
okay.
Yeah. No, and now mind you, we can get into the whole 3D Maya or Max debate all you want to, but there is a legitimate demand for Blender people to do stuff so that Unity can beta test its functions. And the video game people, that's a real concern.
Yeah.
I'll put the wiki up on Polycon too, Sterling. On the video when I upload it.
Thanks, Dave.
I had a problem similar to yours, where I had a character and I wanted it to have clothing that was the texture of the clothing was different from the texture of the arm. And what I learned to do was to take that character and create several different UV maps out of that one character and just separate those parts.
Okay, that's what we're doing.
And each one of those in the node editor, there's this attribute node where you tell it what UV map it's using.
Oh, in Blender?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not aware.
And then you, after you create your FBX file, later when you transfer to Unity, it remembers so that. So when you get into Unity, it knows that the face is this UV map, the arms is this UV map. And
I gotta share this thing with you guys, okay?
oh, and I'm sorry. I think I got some of that out of here, just in case you want to.
I gotta share this.
Okay, you're gonna like work out later.
Listen to this. We're working. This is what we're working on. Right? This is what me and my associates are working on. It is the combination between Unity and Blender. Okay, and so we got a legacy mesh. Okay, and from the Unity asset store, and we wanted to turn it mechanism friendly. And so I looked at a bunch of tutorials. We really looked a lot, and we know that what happens is when we go get to this one step, there's errors in that legacy, that one particular editor. So I got to the point where, okay, I'm just going to build animation clips, 128 frames of run loops and stuff like that, which is going to be like serious hours of boredom. Okay, but I'll do it, you know. But then this guy, who I'm like friends with, who's a Blender head, who lives, by the way, in Poland, he figured out how to do it. And I'm not going to share what I believe how he did it, but as it stands right now, he's the only one who knows how to do it. And so, you know, and I'm giving him a certain level of time because I got to look. I'm looking at the tutorials, and there's nobody who knows how to do this. How to take this one mesh from the Unity store because it was so screwed up, or I don't know what the problem is. It just doesn't configure. It has to configure, and it doesn't configure right, and has errors. So but that's that was a fun little thing that's going on right now. I'm not just out of respect for the fact that he apparently invented the process, which isn't, you know, like magic. It's just like kind of like solving the Rubik's Cube, but only he's like, as far as I know, he's the only one who knows how to solve it.
So
I just thought I mentioned.
So do materials import now? Well, from Blender to Unity?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of there are certain quirks you gotta learn.
Okay.
Yeah, there's certain quirks there.
Last time I tried it, it didn't work well, so I just recreated my materials in Unity. But I will point out here, just in case there's any Unreal Engine folks in the house. So the guy that develops the PBR Viewport branch actually includes a node in his sample plan files, which uses a metalness type workflow, but he's built this specifically to be really close to what's in Unreal Engine 4. So basically, you can build your materials here, see what they're going to look like a lot better. And you just, oh, okay, great. All right, Sterling_gets@hotmail.com.
Whatever, but just like the same. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, wow. Good spot. Okay.
Is Unreal Engine doing you know, like a proactive job of trying to mesh with Blender? Or what's
They made the Blender Foundation to kind of like merge bridges, you know?
oh, really? They're trying to do
So
that?
they gave quite a good amount of money to the Blender Foundation to improve the FBX exporting from Blender to Unreal Engine. And they did some improvements, but it's still not perfect, you know?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, I'm asking because I'm wondering if I need to start learning Unreal Engine. I don't know learn other software, but is it really that?
But in the place I work for,
Awesome.
we use Unreal Engine and Blender. So that's
I'm sorry, say
Right, HDRI there.
This is what I work for. We use Unreal Engine.
Oh,
So that's
get out.
really
Hey, Sterling, we're going to have to do like some virtual reality sessions instead of Zoom.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that is great.
So-
That is awesome.
So obviously you got it at multiple exposure values, right? So we could throw this into a, hang on, what's left here?
Photoshop has the photo merge, that'll do it.
Yeah, we don't have Photoshop. What's a good open source exposure merging app? I guess Blender could do it, right? We could do it in the compositor.
HD merge.
Do a lot of stuff. It really can.
It can, yeah. So I tell you what, if people have laptops open, do a search for Blender exposure value merge for HDR and see if somebody's. I'm sorry, yeah. So
you can use the same.
Oh, wow.
Just grab the bigger one.
How much that thing cost?
I'm sorry.
yeah, what's the resolution? I'm curious. Like, that's I guess the photos would tell us, right? Let's take a look. No, of course not. Windows. Damn you, Windows.
Easy. Too easy.
Yeah,
It took about 60 seconds to take them.
no.
We haven't processed it yet. I just, guy at Digital Domain told me about it. He said get one, and he said he's had one on sale. So I was like, oh, no.
What's the cost?
I think it's $2.95, but I got it for because I got a pink one, and so as a result, like they couldn't sell the pink one, so I said, okay, well I'll get a pink one for $128.
I gotta really pay attention on screens like this, not to get malware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mac, it's not.
I guess it's this one, right? It's not this one. This is like the malware button, and this looks legit.
What about like Paul Vivek's? Like, he sort of invented HDR. Doesn't he have a free program to do it?
Yeah.
Also, there is like online websites that is doing the work for you. You just need to upload it to the website.
Well, we'll keep this going, May, in the background here. I usually go to HDR Labs. This site's got a pretty good software list. Over here under Tools, they've got a list of stuff like, by the way, this fast picture codec pack is awesome. For the price, you can look at camera RAWs like directly in Windows. It'll look at HDRs. It just makes, it removes limitations.
What's this process that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so basically, let me just find this.
HDR shop is that like
I think Picture Not will do this.
you don't have to.
Yeah, I think Picture Not will do this pretty well. Let me download this sucker. Download Picture Not, and it's free.
I got a quick question about the Viewport thing.
Yep.
Does that work with just NVIDIA graphics processors, or does it work with HDI, or does it work with?
As far as I'm aware, I really can't answer that. I don't know. I've never tried it with ATI.
I think it's OpenGL.
It's OpenGL, and all cards support OpenGL, so it's not CUDA dependent.
Blender likes
Yeah, and that's the Cycles render engine, right? Like they use the CUDA libraries to do the ray tracing, but this isn't really using CUDA libraries. It's just using OpenGL, as Sam says. So let's see if this works. Picture Not. File, open, photos. Now maybe we need to merge them first. Cancel. I'm doing this wrong. Let's see. Here from bracketed exposure, add photos. Yeah. No, it's not. For some reason, they're not in a format that it appreciates. What format does it take it in?
Well, I mean, like, I just sent you the photos from iPhoto.
So they're like JPEG or something? Yeah, they're JPEG.
probably just because it doesn't have file extension up there or something, maybe, you know, so it's just possible.
Yeah, it's strangely, it doesn't like.
You just passed it.
Oh yeah, it does JPEG. Huh? Wonder why they're not showing up. Weird.
I bet you had JPG. Is this 10 or 7?
You mean rename them?
You know, are you on Windows 10 or Windows 7?
Windows 7, unfortunately. Oh, you know what? This is in a zip file. That's what's going on.
Oh.
Ah, there we go. Let's extract here. Yeah, it's a little better. So look at that. So this tool kind of automatically figures out, you know, you can see.
They're not in order by.
Yeah, it should figure it out. All right, let's do this. Uh-oh. They're too small and can lead to incorrect results. This shows up as black or white. What was the exposure changes between the images?
It's like a stop here. Let me take this. You've got like 8 or 9 different presets in this folder, in this program.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, it doesn't like how far exposure value apart these photos are. See if you can do it with a bigger exposure range, like 1 to 2 stops. Anyways, we're going down a rabbit hole here. All right, so that is the PBR Viewport. Let's see. Let me get back to my presentation. So some resources that are interesting. Here's the Blender artist thread. If you want to join the discussion, talk to the developer. There's a bunch of people doing really cool stuff. There's literally people rendering animations straight out of the viewport. This is his website where you can download the build. This is the video from Jonathan Lampel, Blender HT, that I talked about earlier. This is the official, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. I've got a bad link here. So you have to Google for the official Blender Foundation Viewport project and you'll find information about it. This is the Pixar Hydra Viewport open sourcing announcement. They presented at the NVIDIA's GPU conference. They did a really nice presentation. Here's that Polycount website I talked about. Oh, and just to give you one more example. So this is me mucking around with standard viewport, PBR viewport, and cycles render. So let me show you what that looks like.
Can you go back to that? Oh, yeah. I wanted to take a screenshot.
So I just rotated a couple of colored lamps over that same exact scene. So I had to render this cycles render at 10,000 samples to get rid of all the weird noise. There's so many fireflies. This took like, I don't know, left it running overnight. This took like a minute or 2. Yeah. Anyways, pretty close, right? I'm sure it'd be even closer if I was more sort of attentive to the materials. And sorry, Dave, you had a question?
This is like one of the few examples I've seen actually comparing viewports. Like, I think that's my question, because we are using a PBR workflow for a client job right now, and we like, how close is it? How accurate is it? So this is nice to see this, because I like colors and things to look at, and this is a really good comparison. And man, it looks so close. But is this how close PBR gets, or is this like a limitation of PBR? Why it can't get better, or like what's the difference, and which one should be the winner?
So cycles is the reference, right? And then the middle one, if there's any discrepancies between the middle one and the cycles render, it's either the PBR viewport GLSL shading just looks a little bit different than cycles BSDRF shading, or it means that I just didn't put enough attention into mucking with the settings in the viewport to get it close enough.
Gotcha.
It's one of those two. I don't know yet. Like it's a little darker. You can tell when the lights leave. It's not getting as much ambient light from the world setting. So maybe I should have bumped up the world setting values for the viewport. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's my question. Is like, why is one? What's the difference, and which one's the winner? But yeah, I guess the idea here is that PBR can do everything pretty realistically. Then, right? That's.
Yeah. So transparency and that, right? If you have like lots of glass objects, it's only going to go through like the first bounce, for example. So you get like some black artifacts show up in the screen. Basically, the more you crank up your quality settings, the slower your viewport's going to go. But you need just one bounce. If you're working on stuff like diffusing glossy materials, which game artists usually are, then it works really well.
Okay.
So anyhow, yeah, I hope it's useful to anyone.
Also, the reflections, there's some limits on the way that the reflection is getting displayed, right? Like, for example, from object to object, not like a wall.
Oh, right. So you can have like a ground plane that's reflective and have it be reflecting the objects above it in addition to the world environment. But you're saying like two chrome balls next to each other. Yeah, so you can set up, for each object, there's object dependent. If I go into here, let's grab this.
You have to create like a reflection maps.
You do.
Proofs or something like that, right?
So for every single object, you can create a viewport probe and you can actually select another object or a cube map created from the environment, the world environment, or, you know, a planar map. So you can have objects reflected in other objects, but it's not going to be like object reflection, 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 because that's like 4 bounces, right? And the viewport it stops
if
it.
the objects are animated, are these reflections being updated?
Yeah. So like, so if we go grab this guy, move it over here. We need to, I'm not going to do that, but yeah, absolutely. Like if you move this ball around and then do a render OpenGL animation, by the way, which happens so fast.
Oh, wow. Wait, okay.
Did I show you guys this? So like if you go, here's a cycle, here's OpenGL render image. That's how fast it takes to render a frame. Here's the same thing with cycles. There we go.
Wait, okay. Where is this link right here?
And that's 100 examples, right?
I'm totally pro photorealistic, but there does come a certain point where I don't really care if it renders fast.
Yeah.
And that's how fast it renders on PBR. Is that what you're saying to me?
Yeah, like I rendered a 250 frame animation using this method.
My PBR isn't already in Blender. I mean, maybe my math is off, or maybe I'm missing something.
Using this method, right? So you click only render and then you get rid of like all the wires and stuff first. But yeah, anyways. But I think there probably are limitations, right? Especially with the number of light bounces. So transparency, reflection light bounces, just for performance reasons. But for previewing, it's good enough. So anyways, I'll end it there. Hope it was useful. And yeah, we download it and check it out.
By the way, I sent you another green picture of HDR.
Okay. So I'll take a look at that. I think it's time for a break. What do you think, guys? We'll take a quick kind of break. There is not. And I really apologize for not bringing bagels today. I just ran.
Sterling.
I know. It's criminal. There's nowhere that's super. There's nowhere that's super easy. There is a restaurant literally right next door, but I don't know how fast you're going to be able to get in and get food and get out. But we'll end up over there and pretty soonish anyways. So bathrooms are out here to the left, water fountain. I encourage you all to talk amongst yourselves, see what you're working on. And we'll get set up for the next one.
You'd be able to help me, I was trying to install this plugin, measure it, and
To measure the distances, they remove it from the latest versions of Blender because it was having some issues. So you may need to use slightly old version of Blender.
There was a question for Sam online too about what 360 or someone else was presenting. What 360-degree rig did they use? Somebody in the online chat asked the question.
Tony.
what's that? It's just this this is specialized camera just to capture 360 degrees. It's called the Ricoh Theta.
Ricoh.
Maybe
R-I-C-O-H Theta.
It looks pretty cool. So
So it'll capture an instant 360 degree panorama, and then this visual effects artist invented a thing to allow you to capture HDRs.
Yeah, They're working on a similar project at UC San Diego also. They've got a camera. They'll be, I don't know whose technology they're working with on it, but they're working on inventing some of the hardware for that too. I don't.
Well, there's like literally blocks from here. There's a USC light field stage they use for a lot of the high-end kind of movies. This is where they capture digital doubles and stuff. Pretty cool. Yeah, this thing looks pretty cool. It's pretty reasonably priced too.
That might be it. Lincoln Boulevard.
This is at USC. So it's, yeah, University of Southern California. Okay, let me see if I can get back to. Oh, by the way, Noel.
Yes.
This basics of good texturing in Blender, go to Blender Guru. This is a really nice video that gives you an explanation of how to use all the maps, how to combine different images, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Really good, really worth looking at. It's kind of like. Let me get back. Okay, so. Yeah. Anyways. Let's see if we can get this second.
Well, you have to, it's possible to Skype and experience this meeting. I live on the east side, so I never really can come down here because you're always on the far west. And if I don't have the gas or I don't have the time, I can come down here.
So we broadcast this online, so you could absolutely join online. There's a bunch of people joining here.
Is it archived?
But do you archive the meeting?
We do. So yeah, so they get recorded on a system we're using called Zoom, and then David Andrade usually puts it up on the Theory Studio site. He has a YouTube channel that we post them up on.
Oh, you have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That's on what?
I gotta watch that.
What channel is that?
What are we doing?
Hey, Dave, are you still with us?
Yeah, I hear some mumbling. It's a little hard to hear. I think there's a question or something.
Yeah, where do we Google on the YouTube channel? Some of us are interested in actually following your YouTube.
Oh, sure. It's youtube.com/theory animation. Just how it sounds. THEORY animation. No space, no fancy letters.
Okay, Theory Animation.
Uh-huh.
You know what this is? You know, normally cameras capture the exposure value and the metadata, and I think that's what this program's looking for. That's why it's showing us the same exposure value for every one of these. So maybe we can manually put it in. So what do you know? Like how many exposure values apart were they?
I think it's like 2 stops apart.
Okay, so let's do -2, 0, and +2.
But have you checked the images to see which one is which?
No, I haven't. That's a good point. That's not, yeah. So let's.
Make sure they're in order.
So you say that we have a lot of people
High,
today?
low.
19 is
So
+2.
19 is middle. This is 20 is low.
18 is the middle.
Oh yeah, 18. You're right.
18
There.
is 0.
18 is 0. 19 is +2, and 20 is -2. Help me remember that. 18 is 0. 19 was what?
+2.
2
Minus.
and -2. Aha! Look at that. So it's 8.76 exposure values. That's HDRI. So we can actually crank. Whoops! We can actually crank up or down the exposure, and just view what it looks like. Let's go auto. There we go. You can then import. Yeah, let's go ahead and generate an HDRI. We'll say, whoops. Actually, file, save as, open EXR. We'll call this LA.Blend 2016 0514 EXR.
Telling you, man, I get my Vive next month. We'll do a LA Blender meetup in 360. We have to find a way.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and, oh man, this floating window is killing me. How do I move this around?
Just move it. Just, yeah, you can drag
How do
it
you-
anywhere.
But if I click, oh, okay, good.
Yeah, you can't get rid of it, unfortunately.
It's like, drives me nuts. All right, so let's go ahead and grab Z1. Whoops, grab Z1. Let's go down to ground plane to get some shadows if we have enough exposure value to do that. Woo! Okay, scale. Scale. Okay, so use nodes. You're going to add an environment texture, browse to documents, meeting, photos. There's our HDR. Now if we, look at that. So there's kind of a shadow going on over here. My guess is that is probably from the window. So if we rotate around, oh, yeah, you can see this shadow is probably coming from these light sources over here. And you know it's handy. Let's see. It's nice they put multiple inserts. They put light map information in here by default now. You can actually crank this up to like, let's double it. And then we'll go increase the samples. My machine's kind of lagging here. Hold on, I gotta enable GPU rendering. So user prefs, system, CUDA. And we'll switch this over to GPU. And then we'll bump up the sampling. Get that like at least 100. Maybe even like, I don't know.
So, yeah, according to the guy at Digital Domain who turned me on to this trick, he said like, whatever they were working on 3 months ago, they were using this a lot. You know, when I said, is this high enough resolution? He's like, for HDRs, you know, just for image-based lighting, it's fine. He's not going to use the actual images. You know, just use it to light it.
How do you cover the images? Just
You know,
just build walls, I suppose.
I don't know. I just got this camera last month. So I with the intention of doing this someday, but can you actually render without the image but have it affect the
Yeah. Yeah, here's a nifty trick. Really easy to do. I think you just go down here to like ray visibility, switch it off like that.
Okay.
So
we get the lighting, but we're not actually seeing it.
Yeah, the way to do that through nodes, which is kind of fun. Actually, let's go into use nodes. Let's see. What's going on here? Why do I not have a world node setting? Not sure.
So you have to click in the material. You're in the compositing node. No, in here.
In here. And then world. Sorry. Okay, so what I saw somebody do the other day was actually just do Shift A, color, mix node, slap it in here, then do a input light path node, and you could say camera ray as the mix factor, and you could like, you know, make this nice and dark if you want. Down here under rendered, that gives you like that. That way you can control the environment lighting color, right? So you can make it darker, make it lighter. But the actual lighting for the object is being done by the HDRI. Yeah, anyways, or we can do it the simple way. Yeah, awesome. So, if you increase the exposure values, so I don't, can you,
Yeah.
like, how many exposure values can you take with it?
Well, the first time we did it with the maximum 9, you know, with a one-stop difference between everything. And this last one was just 3 with 2 stops. So not as wide a range, but
9 with 1
they have
stop.
like fast 3, standard 9, 5, like let me see, and then you can make it bias it towards bright or towards dark. We probably should have biased bright, darker.
Yeah. So the greater number of the exposure values, the crisper these shadows will be. It's kind of, anyways, that's what Greg Zoll has been saying on his blog lately. All right. So awesome. That's pretty cool. We should take another one with the maximum number of exposure values before we leave. It'd be really fun to have a shot of our group.
Let's make it a portrait.
Absolutely. All right. So at this point, I mean, if you guys are comfortable not breaking any further, we can keep on going. What do you think? Yeah. Next topic. All right, Dave. I think we're over to you at this point.
Oh man, all the pressure is on. I don't know if I can follow HDRIs. All right, so first off, did you, Sterling, did you download anything? I sent you a link, but I sent it rather late. I don't know if you had a chance.
I did not, but I can do that now.
I can either try to stream it through Zoom, or if you want to just download it, I'll send you the link. I'll just put it in the chat here.
Did you send it to my email?
I just threw it in the chat just like a second ago.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Let me get back then, and we'll go back to chat. Dropbox. There we go.
And why don't you, oh, cool. Okay, so I don't know how you can, top right maybe? Yeah, no, where it's, yeah, there you go. I was gonna say. I'm a little lagged. Yeah, download it anywhere. Shouldn't be too big. So I'll chat for a little bit, and then while that's downloading, just give me a heads up, and then we'll switch over to that. Sound good?
Okay. It looks like there's 2 PDFs here, right? Were you trying for a video, or? Oh, I see. There's
yeah, the PDFs are. This is kind of like the share that we've been sending people. So the PDFs are there for them, and the videos are here for us. It's kind of like a place for all these things. But
okay.
I'll blab for a little bit.
Okay.
Cool. Well, hey everybody, my name's David, and today I'm going to be selling you on a Blender course. So if nobody's heard of us, our name is Theory Studios. Theory Animation was still keeping that name too, but we produce an animated cartoon called Ray and Clovis, which if you've never heard of them, it's theoryanimation.com/watch/RNC. Or just theoryanimation.com, and it'll take you right to them. And this is our little animated cartoon, all made in Blender. It's really funny. It's a little bit of slapstick, a mixture of Ren and Stimpy, and a little bit of Cyanide and Happiness, and Odd Couple. Fun little cartoon, and it really was a way to learn Blender. Many of us came from Maya and everything, and we wanted to find a way to just kind of learn how to use Blender because we thought it was a pretty cool little program, and it became a short, and the short became another short, and then that became a series. So it's all these episodes are up. There's about 19 of them, and we did our last one just a few months ago to celebrate the release of Star Wars. Ray and Clovis, it's done really well. Well, we've been working on Ray and Clovis for a very long time, 4 years actually internally. And we decided to do something totally brand new. That's why we haven't released actually a new episode of anything in a very long time. It's because we've been working on a different show called Beans and Peas. Beans and Peas is really, really different. Ray and Clovis was for kids. Beans and Peas is Adult Swim. It's for adults. Anybody who loves dick jokes, sex jokes, explosions, graphic violence. It's a really big departure from a Happy Little Kids cartoon. Beans and Peas, these two little characters think that they're on a preschool show, and little episodes are about learning and facts and figures, but awful, awful things happen to them in each and every episode. So we're going to watch some of those today. So that's Sterling. I guess I'll check on you. Let me know if that download is done, and we can cue a couple of the episodes up.
He stepped away from the desk for it.
Did he? Oh, man, killed the thunder. All right, well, I'll keep going for a little bit.
There he is. Back.
Oh, is he back?
What do you need, Dave?
I was like segueing like right into you, and I was like, okay, Sterling, take it away, play the video. That's all good. That's all good. You need
Okay.
You've been there the whole time. But yeah, anyways, Beans and Peas this is a brand new show. It's a huge departure from Brain Club. This is not a kids cartoon in any way. We're just trying to be silly. There's a lot of kids cartoon elements in it, but some of these episodes are going to go way, way more adult and darker. So Sterling, I'm going to stop my screen share and let me know if any of those videos work.
Okay. Let me just unzip them real quick.
No problem.
All right. Awesome. Let me desktop share.
And remember the little checkbox for sound or whatever.
Share computer sound.
Yeah. And there's a handful of MP4s there. You could probably just play a couple of them. There's like the Mexican jumping bean one. That's pretty funny.
Okay.
And yeah, just pick one or two.
Whoops, sorry. Oops. There we go.
Well, we don't hear anything, but we do see it.
Now, oh, because I muted the sound earlier.
Did you know that
There we
Mexican
go.
jumping
Sorry,
bean-
let's start over.
Hola, amigos. Howdy, cousin. Nice to see you again. Did you know that Mexican jumping beans have living larvae inside them? What? Hey. Hola, amigos.
Very nice.
So why don't we go to, say, what's another good one? Let's go to Brazilian spiders. Some of these are animatics. Actually, a bunch of these are animatics. So because a lot of them are in animation right now, so I figured I'd show you just the storyboards. But yeah, why don't we play Turtle Butts and Brazilian Spiders? So that's episode 2 and episode 5.
It's coming through there. Okay, so we're through Studios folder.
Yeah.
Whoops. No, that keeps jumping back. That's really strange.
Maybe it's the full screen of VLC or something. There you go.
Yeah, okay. So which one?
Number 2.
This one here?
Yep, Turtle Butts.
Hi, turtle. Did you know that turtles can breathe through their butts? Oh. Oh. Hey, please, look, I'm a turtle. Found something. Oh.
Nice.
Okay. And then for fun, we'll end on the 5th one, Brazilian spiders.
Watch out for that spider! Did you know that a bite from a Brazilian wandering spider results in an erection, followed by death? Please?
So it's a bit of a
Watch out for
departure
that
from Rain Club.
spider! Did you know that a
That's awesome.
So what do you guys-
These belong in the Spike and Mike Festival of Animation Midnight showing.
Yeah, it's very different from what we're used to doing. We wanted to kind of like take the cuffs off and really have some fun with slapstick and dirty animation, if you will. And I'm pleased to announce that this week we got everything figured out and signed. The show is going to be an exclusive to this network called Vessel. Vessel's founded by the former guy who created Hulu. He started a brand new network geared towards short form, premium quality stuff. And they liked our pitch for Beans and Peas. And now it's going to be an official exclusive show on their network this July. So,
wow. Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
So Ray and Clovis isn't gone though. They're actually going to be coming back, but later on in the year. We have a really cool thing. Can't announce it just yet, but they're going to be making an appearance in June on a new app, and then later on in the year we might see a couple of new episodes. But in the meantime, Beans and Peas has been our biggest focus, and that'll be debuting on Vessel on July 24th, 25th. Can't remember the exact day, but it'll be debuting towards the end of July, right around Comic-Con, SIGGRAPH area. And yeah, we'll be putting up all the episodes. There's about 14 that we're planning right now. These are like little shorts, and we're going to be bunching them together to make a full-on episodic piece.
Right on. Cool. Congrats, man.
Yeah, and it's all made in Blender, so that's kind of like the connection. You know, we try to do it all in Blender, animate, rigs, everything. Our rigging artist is Juan Pablo Buza, the guy who did Caminandes. He made all of these rigs, and then we've just found some of the best artists through Blender Artists and the Blender Network. They've all been able to kind of coalesce and help. And for those of you that don't know, because I know there's a couple of new faces, we work remotely with people. So I'm actually in Orlando right now.
Sorry, my bad.
Hola, amigo.
I'm just happy to see you. But yeah, I'm in Orlando right now. But Juan Pablo, who does all these character rigs, he's out of Argentina, and our animators are all throughout North America, and we have even a couple in Europe. So it's this kind of cool, eclectic, virtual production studio that we've gone ahead and built. And we built our own software to manage it and everything, but the meat and potatoes is Blender for animation and production, and lately a combination of Amazon cloud rendering to handle all of our in the cloud stuff. Although Beans and Peas is actually pretty light, that we can fit that on a GPU. And then more technical stuff, somebody asked, the 2D mouth, is that a mesh with an animated UV or post-production? Well, there's two variants to that. The first one that you're watching like right here, right now, Peas, he has a 2D drawn mouth that we then set up a whole bunch of drivers, and it's just a simple painted mouth, painted eyes that are then projected onto an emission plane. And just transparency, and we have this crazy little slider to kind of pick the faces that we want. However, there's a new version of these rigs that we've gone ahead and done, and that's not out just yet. But that takes a combination of those 2D drawings and throws them on a shrink wrap modifier. So then we can kind of like have them go all around the face, and we can manipulate them and everything. But it all starts from just a kind of a 2D kind of hand-drawn style. Even like animation-wise, if you notice, everything feels a little kind of jerky and poppy. We're really trying to get a more kind of a crude, or like we're purposely trying to make it crude and kind of jerky and poppy and animation-y. And we're doing that because we kind of like this 2D quality where when you see like old school animation, it's not all perfect and flowy and on ones. It's a little jerky. So we're using quadratic tangents in Blender to get that effect. And then everything else is in cycles, just very basic cycle stuff. A lot of subsurface on them, probably a little too much in some places, but combination of subsurface, super, super long lenses. I think this is like a 200 millimeter or something lens on these characters. And that's just all on purpose to get that super, super flat look. For them to kind of feel like this interesting mix of like 2D and CG, and make it feel a little bit more cartoony. But that's my pitch.
Like the It looks like there's some sort of atmospheric mist going on there. Are you using like volumes and cycles mist or something else?
You know what? It's actually a little bit of a volume, and it's a good eye too. We wanted to have kind of like a painterly quality to the whole thing, for like the deep backgrounds and stuff. We wanted things to kind of feel almost like somebody painted it and had this like very simple, sharp kind of look to it. Some of the other shorts that are in production, they're just like simple spears and stuff, just to kind of get this abstract kind of shape. But again, all just to feel like it's painted, but it's all done in Blender. But yeah, there's a bit of atmospheric to it, and just a regular sun, just a regular sun on it.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's Beans and Peas. Look for it in July, and hopefully around then we'll even, if you guys are at SIGGRAPH, hopefully by then you'll be able to see more of the show, and we'll have more episodes.
Cool. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, no problem. And I don't know if there's any questions. Feel free to ask.
Any questions for Dave?
From your last Rain Close video, I went to your website and I got this training video on your process. You were describing like how you work remotely with each other.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if you still follow that same format, and if so, how did you get started in the first place? You reached out to everyone and sort of pulled together your team.
Yeah, that's a really good question. One, we're going to do our best to have another SIGGRAPH presentation on that very thing. Actually, Anaheim, 3-4 years ago, was it now? At SIGGRAPH is where we did that presentation, or in Los Angeles. And so, it's kind of nice that we get to come back and do it again. The answer to your question, though, how did we get started and everything, is it was a combination of colleagues and friends who are artists and programmers, and we needed a way to just kind of work together virtually. And this is actually almost like 6 years ago at this point, where we had Maya and we had web forums, and that's about it. So we brought on a really good Python programmer and a PHP programmer, thankfully we both, built out this whole website to manage our production and our workflow. And then on top of that, because we were a company, we wanted to use something that was cheap and kind of easy to use. And we found Blender. Maya licenses were just a little too pricey at the time, and we really fell in love with it. So a combination of using Blender for animating and rendering, and this whole website to upload all of our work and stuff. Now, since that presentation, a few things have changed, notably the way we kind of interact. We have set meetings 3 times a week. We have Zoom for all of our video conferencing, screen sharing, and everything. Certainly didn't have that even when that presentation was recorded. We barely had anything like that. We had this awkward Skype, but that didn't work and people couldn't connect. But Zoom solved the video sharing aspect. And then we use a program called Slack to manage kind of like our day-to-day, like a task and who's doing what. And because we have a custom-built production website, every time someone does a shot update or assigns something, we get an update on Slack. Hey, this person just updated this shot, and we can go quickly check it out, leave feedback, etc. Really, the hardest part, and I don't know if this is totally answering the question, but hopefully it will. The hardest part about that entire process is consistency and getting people to show up and do stuff. And we've been really lucky that we have a nice core group of people that have been there since the beginning. And we meet, like I said, 3 times a week just to keep that ball rolling, keep people excited, keep people energized. And we've been lucky to get some really cool VFX work. We've been lucky to do some commercial work, television animation work, and then Beans and Peas and Rain Clovis, which Rain Clovis was a thing of love, and we just did it. We made like 0 money from it. It was awesome because that led to Beans and Peas got picked up, and now it's a short series for this, startup network. So I guess as a total answer to everything, the technical answers, we built a website. These days, you could probably just use Shotgun or something like that, or F-Track, and you'll be all right. But we built it right before that became a big thing. And from a creative standpoint, we try to do things that are a little different and really, really funny. And then from a management standpoint, a lot of these online systems and things are really cool, but they all fall apart because nobody's there kind of leading the ship every day. So that's really the hardest part, is just showing up and doing something.
Yeah.
But yeah, all those three things kind of mix together and you get this.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
I have one more plug.
Yep.
I wasn't told.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay. Hog Awakens was really fun. That was actually my favorite episode. You get it? Hog. Okay, whatever. So one more plug. Something silly. So Theory got hired by Linda to start developing a couple of animation courses for them. So trying not to make this too much of a hard sell, but we have a whole course list coming in the next year to Linda of I don't know how to animate, but I know how to use Blender. So how do I animate a character? And the fruit of our labor, the first course came out just a few months ago in December, where there's this Blender character. We made it in Blender, designed it. It's all just total Blender. It works right out of the box, the whole set and everything. And you can animate it. So this is live now, and it did so well that Linda has hired us to come back and build out a whole, what they called it, a learning path, to take you from I know how to use Blender to I know how to be a really damn good CG character animator. So the first course is out on Linda, and when you buy it or whatever, you get this character. His name is Arthur. You get the sets, the props, and I walk through mostly the creative side of it. There's plenty of really good tutorials online about the technical side of it, and what buttons do what in Blender. But I try to focus more on the creative, the principles of animation, dialogue, squash and stretch, anticipation, all that stuff, the acting. And it's a really kind of cool course, really focused on animating just characters in Blender. And this is the first piece. They liked it so much, so now there's a whole bunch of them that are going to be coming out over the course of the next year or two. So a little bit of a pitch, but I thought, maybe there's an animator out there who might be interested in it. And it's Blender focused, which is pretty awesome.
Does it live on any other of the tutorial sites like Digital Tutors or Skillshare or anything like that?
No, unfortunately not. Linda contracted us out to do this, so it's their thing. So Linda, it's the Linda course. So unfortunately it doesn't live on the others.
I'm actually a subscriber to Lynda.com on occasion. So right now it's inactive, but if there was something that I wanted, it would be the editor and the NLA and the dub sheet.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that I'm personally interested, because I've scoured the internet for videos and tutorials, and I checked out the old videos for what do you call it, Lynda.com, the old Blender videos.
Yeah.
Did you see those old ones?
No, this happened literally 5 months ago, six months ago. Actually.
Yeah, because my big complaint with Lynda.com has always been that the minute I start playing around with their tutorials, they're not making sense. I mean, they're you know what I mean? With CG Cookie, it's a piece of cake. I mean, it's just very step by step. I'm not really struggling to do anything except for watch the video and learn the concepts.
Right.
But with .com, no, there does come a certain point where I'm like, look away, I know more about this than they do. You know what I mean? It's just not.
Totally agree. And they've hired a great woman actually in charge of the whole CG department. Funny enough, her name is Linda. And
I don't know why they're lying.
And she reached out to us. We briefly met at Cigarettes. She reached out to us. She was a big fan of the show, and she's like, I need Blender animation. I want to make let's make a whole course. And I said, all right, but the characters they had, we thought that we could do better. So they hired us. We designed a character for them and everything. It uses it's very much inspired by Juan Pablo's blend rig. So it's super.
You use blend rig?
It's inspired by it. It's not blend rig, but it's very similar to it. But there's like some 2,000. It's a custom rig that we made for them, but there's like 2,000 plus controls. I mean, you can do everything in it. It's really awesome. And it did so well that they've hired us to come back and do more courses, which is awesome. And it's to take you from like, I know how to use Blender to I know how to animate on a Pixar movie, which I know that's like crazy, by the way, but that's the goal, right? It's to get you to Pixar animator level. And what does that take? So it's a multi-year process, and this is the first year, and it went pretty well. So a little bit of a pitch, but I don't want to like come off and start selling people on it, but
You said it's awesome. Take a look at it.
So Dave, I don't know if this cuts into your profits, but one of the guys at our one of our previous meetings said, if you have an LA library card, you get access to the lynda.com
Really?
video collection.
LA County library card.
That's awesome.
Access to lynda.com.
Really?
What?
Really?
Oh, no, I have to log in via the LA County library website. I hope this doesn't affect your profit.
Hey, I think LA Library, I think the county of LA has some money, so I think they got
a site license. So yeah, and I've never really tried it. I'm using an LA Library account to get us on the Wi-Fi here, so we might have to.
I use it all the time.
Have you accessed the Blender stuff? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome!
Amazing.
There you go.
Wow.
rock on.
Hey,
Yeah.
Dave, I've got another question for you.
Sure.
In your training, in the older training program that I took, they had a great section on storyboarding. I'm curious if you use the grease pencil portion of Blender for your storyboarding process.
Yeah, it's a good question. Not completely. Yes, to a degree. So how we work is that we just kind of let the artists use whatever they feel comfortable with. Animation and rendering are done in Blender, but for like storyboarding, editing, post effects, we let them use if they want to. So the storyboard artist, I forget the program he uses. It's not Photoshop, but it's this like crazy app, and maybe somebody here knows, where you can like draw on an infinite canvas, and it's super, super cool. So that's what we do. It's actually really kind of interesting. We all hop on a Zoom call like this, and he screen shares, and we're just like batting ideas left and right while he's screen sharing. And we can all draw on his screen, but he can draw too, and like save all of this out onto this infinite canvas. And then he just cuts them out into storyboards. So I don't know the name of the app off the top of my head. I'll put it in the notes, but that being said, direct answer to the grease pencil bit, no, but we have played with it quite a bit, and it's super cool. There's no reason why we're not. It's just, and that's what he prefers. But the grease pencil is super, super cool. And there's actually a client job that we're working with a 2D animation studio right now, and we use grease pencil to bid on it, just to, well, let's see if we could do it, right? And it worked. It worked actually really well. We ended up doing the finishing in Premiere and After Effects, but we used grease pencil to just block out the whole entire thing and quickly animate it. And just to test, like, compare it to, say, Character Animator or Toon Boom, and it held up. It did really, really well. We're really happy with the results.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching our silly cartoons. Appreciate it. All right. Did we lose Sterling again?
No, I'm here. We're we think we're going to take another HDR as a group, just
nice.
before we launch into like Project Show and Tell.
Yeah.
Just to get a high res HDR out of it. So why don't
stand around the table?
yeah, throw it. So we'll stand around the table and everybody throw their Blender gang signs. What is
Do you wanna project?
I forget how it goes.
Can you see the screen? Can you see the screen with this though? Can you see the? Can you see?
Yeah. You should sit there. We should be able to
You a pose or something? Yeah, let's do it.
Nice. I like this.
Yeah, you'll be in this, Dave.
What's that?
Move still for like a minute. Yeah. How many exposures do you do? All 9?
Let's do all 9. Yeah.
All right.
Don't do that.
Oh, that'll screw things up. That would be a little bit terrifying. And you'll hear it when it takes the picture. So let's go.
So stand still, you said, or
First one.
Woo. I might take a photo of that.
Yeah.
No, nobody would be smiling.
That's right.
such a weird sound.
Oh, that's a sensitive mic.
That's not really the camera. That's a bird in the room.
Oh, nice.
Should have been timing.
Okay, that's it.
All right.
All right.
I'm gonna put it on my Facebook.
So that was I should brought my Gear VR. We could have like put a VR helmet in. Look
It's
around.
funny. Online, like 2 people popped on and then popped off in the middle of that whole thing. They're like, wow, like, how can I explain to them right now that we're trolling you? Whatever.
Come on up. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I'm gonna see it.
it's officially open meeting. So if you have Blender projects, put them on thumb drive, bring them up. We'd love to see them.
This is not a Blender project, but it's kind of funky. Have y'all heard about the New Yorker magazine and what they've done with their cover?
No.
Okay, all right. Now, wait, can he?
Do you need
see
a web
me?
browser?
Yeah, it was for this guy to see. Oh, so he can
He
see
can
this?
see. Yeah. He
Hey,
can
I can see your. Yeah.
So the New Yorkers on this yellow and black cover has created kind of an online app that you download for free. And let's see, it's called UNCOVR, Uncover. And so, you'll get a camera and you're going to pick the New Yorker magazine here. And when you do, and you bring it up here, it starts animating.
Oh, cool.
And what's interesting about the animation is that when you got too far off, is that in a minute, once you get the cityscape, you can move around the buildings.
Yeah.
And there's evidently things. I got this magazine yesterday, and so there's evidently like hidden things in here that you can, check out. I mean, it's like completely, So just wanted to let people know about this cover and this little app. It's kind of a funky thing, and I haven't even explored it all that much myself.
Magazines do that.
I know everyone's saying that, like, yeah, not Wired, So just wanted to let people know. Uncover without the E. It's UNCOVR. So.
Are you an avid New Yorker reader?
No, I'm not. This is the
You
first
just
one I've ever
figured that
bought. I just saw an article on this. I got news.
Wow, that's really cool.
Awesome. So I don't know if you guys can see. I'm gonna just pan the
Yeah, we
camera.
saw all of that. That was
Pretty
awesome.
rad. You guys are all immortalized on YouTube forever.
No pressure, all right? No pressure.
Okay. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
See that?
This is the boat harbor out in the backyard that you can't see because we got the blinds closed.
Hi, Sam. I'm JT.
Okay, so what else, guys? Anything else? Open projects? You guys want to talk about what you're working on?
I wanted to mention earlier when we were talking about different books. I went to Pact Publisher to look for Blender books. It's like, I've got like $300 of books I could buy here, but they have a subscription now where you can pay like $13 a month and get access to their whole library online. It's a good way, like if you're gonna, it's cheaper than one book, so it's a good way to do it. So because they tend to be geared a little more towards the beginner kind of things.
Where is this? Pack, PACKET. Okay.
So yeah, so Pact probably has more Blender books out than most publishers, I would say.
My way through one of them. It's not all that in depth, but it kind of gets you through all the different kinds of objects you can create.
Blender. So if we just do a search for Blender.
Website can be really a challenge.
Yeah, it's horrible, right?
It's like to get to the fact about the subscription thing, you actually have to not be logged in and then go to the sign me up page, because that's the only thing you can find. They don't ask questions.
So I have a couple of these. I buy them on ebook format, and I will say that I think the Cycles and Material Cookbook was available for free earlier this week for like 24 hours. They do these sales if there's like a holiday coming up. They'll give books away for free. So I will say I did learn how to deal with nodes through, I think it was this book. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not perfect. The guy who wrote it, it's like very clear, do this, do this, do this. It's like there's a lack of give you a conceptual overview of concepts and then dive in. But, yeah.
I'm just content with that. That you got to look for as many linear tutorials as possible, and you just have to have to figure out the big picture.
Sure.
But if they put it in linear form, okay, I'll just go through the motions, and not spend too much energy. But then once I figured out how to do it.
How many people are members of the Cloud, Blender Club?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I like not just because of what they have, but I think it's important to support them.
Yeah, I do too. I probably use less of their resources, but I consider it how I get back to the Blender Foundation for the software. So, it's like $12 a month or something to be a Cloud member. I'd encourage, and I'll just say this for the camera, I'd encourage everybody to become a Cloud member just because it supports the developers that are giving us the great new features that we love. So if you have the means, I recommend you join the Cloud. And once you join the Cloud, you actually get access to a huge amount of resources. They just recently added the ability to manage your projects on the Cloud. They have a series of add-ons that you add into Blender that lets you log straight from the Blender software into the Cloud and get access to an online material library that they're building as part of their open movies. You could download characters and rigs and tutorials, and I'm giving you a lead in to your DVD collection. Why don't you come over and talk about it? Yep.
I brought the full DVD collection on Blender, the very, very old screen.
Oh wow!
This is a very good one because it's signed by Tom.
Oh, look at that. There it is.
Okay.
Where'd you get the
Which
signature?
ones? Oh,
It took me forever to get the entire collection, and it's very, very difficult to find all these ones because even if you go to the Blender website and you try to buy some of these ones, you can buy a few of these ones, but they don't produce these anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to look for eBay and all kind of places to get the full collection. So yeah, it took me quite a good amount of time to get all these ones. That's
This one I haven't seen yet.
That's a video game that they did.
Oh, it's a video game.
Yeah. This is Sintel.
Sintel, I would love to watch that one.
Classical
Laundromat.
That's actually pretty good too. Have you seen this one yet?
Yeah. No, not yet. No, I haven't seen that one.
Who's on the credits roll for these films?
On Cosmos.
And then they produce the tutorials for animation. This was the first one, so it gets like different numbers. It's a series. There is animation, then there is Creature Factory.
Oh, Creature Factory, okay.
How many of these have you watched end to end?
Not all, not all. But there is ones that are very, very good.
Is this the one with Nathan Vandal as the character animation one?
Sterling, I sent you that.
Venom,
Okay, thanks.
Evolution.
Yeah, I've been meaning to actually watch that one, Paint and Blend. That's the guy that does the conceptual artwork for a lot of the open movies. He's just,
David Rahoy.
that's the guy. Yeah, he's awesome. He does some great stuff.
I love this one.
What's that? one?
Yeah, that is good.
How
Yeah,
much is the subscription to Blender Club?
I think it's
Oh, Blender. Okay.
I think it's $12 a month.
Okay.
Oh,
you have everything.
It's 109 a year.
Inside and out.
$109 a year.
Uh-huh.
Good. That's a good one.
And these are not from the Blender official website. This is like different series.
Okay.
So, but this will be the original
Oh, is that
series from
Interior
Blender.
architecture. And,
is that
Oh, that's from
Blender
Blender
Guru?
HD, right?
no?
Yeah.
That's a different one.
yeah, Blender Guru has
I
an
did one.
architect.
I did that one once.
The other thing is like these DVDs, some of them, they have like many discs. I think, for example, this one has like 4 discs, something like that.
Mm.
So it's plenty of content. So if you want to dive into,
It's all on the cloud, but I mean,
Great
it's kind of
for
nice having.
people
it's
interested
like a
in
collection,
compositing.
you know?
Yeah, of course,
There's a lot
yeah.
of great
No, it's
pictures.
kind of cool.
This in conjunction with, and I'm doing another pitch here, with Sam's book.
Oh, that's your
is
book.
A great resource for learning how to do compositing.
And visual effects.
Visual effects. Yeah.
Awesome, man. The definitive Blender DVD collection here. You saw it here first, folks. All right, maybe Tom might have a.
Yeah. Actually, I contacted Tom and I asked him, I think it was this one. I contacted Tom like a year ago and I said, do you have a copy of this one? Because I cannot find this one in any place. I even contacted the guy who created this DVD. I think it's called Bassam Kurdali.
Bassam, yeah, he's the guy
I said,
in charge
do you
of
still have
Tube.
a copy of this one? Because I cannot find this. And he said, no, I don't have any copies. So I found this on eBay someday, you know, but it was like extremely difficult. I don't know if many people is going to have the full set because I'm telling you, it's very hard to get all in one place.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Congrats.
That's definitely impressive, Sam.
Thank you.
Definitely impressive from JT.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, Sterling, one of the things you didn't mention in your opening spiel is we now have rightclickselect.com, a website to go for Blender features.
Yeah, that's true. Let's bring that up real quick.
Plus, Campbell Barton ported OpenTunes freehand tool via Python into an add-on. They open-sourced OpenTunes, and now Campbell Barton has an add-on so you can use the freehand tools like a drawing tool, which is kind of cool. Those are the 2 other big news items that didn't make it in the earlier news recap.
Okay, great. Thanks for bringing it up. So this site, Right Click Select, is managed by Jason Van Gumster, who's the guy that wrote Blender for Dummies. And he's a moderator on Blender Artists. And we used to have a site called Blender Storm where people could suggest new features in Blender, and it kind of became neglected after a while. So he's kind of reinvigorated this using the same software that Blender.today uses. So if you guys ever, Jason Van Gumster? Yeah, Blender. Yeah. It's this guy, Monster Java Guns. That's right. He's got a podcast on open source and digital content creation tools, which is actually not too bad. Where he's like, in his daily commute in his car, he's just basically talking about like new features in Krita, what GIMP is doing. He goes across all of them. Anyways, he created the site, and it's the same software that Blender.today uses, which. This is kind of like a, what's it called? It's not like Reddit. It's like Dig, or you can vote up and down articles basically based on interest. So hopefully the good stuff rises to the top. So this is just like a Blender newsfeed. He took the same software and he applied it to features. So people can vote up and down features. If you're, if you are really you really want this feature, you're usually requested to describe it really well. Do some mock-ups so that people can get a feel for what it is you're talking about, and maybe it'll get developed. It's unclear, how responsive the developers are going to be to this, but it's nice to find out if you're the only person that wants it, or if like everybody in the world also wants it. Nobody's just talking about it. So, and the right-click select is obviously a dig at the fact that, you know, Blender uses right-click to select, and it confuses the heck out of noobs when they first start using the software. That's a highly contested design choice.
I think it's important to keep it, just to keep your mind open.
Well, there's
You know
a.
what I mean? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, they could switch it by default. Go to the left, like to make
Oh,
every-
trust me, I switch it.
But I think they should just keep it, just to keep everybody on their toes. You know what I mean? It does. It keeps you on your toes. It makes you,
File,
nothing is perfect.
user preps.
Yeah.
What is it? It's input. Where is it? There it is.
Yeah, but when you change that, not everything works though. Not everything's completely switched over when you change to left-click select though.
I haven't found any issues with it. I've used it pretty consistently.
Oh, they might have patched it. It might have been updated because this argument's been going on for a long time. I know that was one of the early ones that if you do convert it to left-click, it doesn't work that well. I don't know. I still keep it right-click myself.
You can have to wear on the mouse buttons.
Yeah, that's true too.
It's a repetitive stress injury choice.
And the repetitive, you know, what is it? It's a carpal tunnel.
Exactly.
Yeah, it just hurts. Exercise your middle finger as opposed to your index.
This occurred to me, I should have done it as right 6.
Yeah, I don't use any mouse. I use the way.
You know what? As a person who works with Blender in video game development, there's no mercy on which finger you use. You know what I mean? Whatever works. You know, you need to be able to be like not only ambidextrous, but finger-dextrous. You know what I mean?
You can also use, for example, I use, because I have this bar. In fact, I have it here when I go for work. I have this to constrain my movements, you know, because I can't paint all the time or too much work, you know. So I usually at work I use like a trackball, you know, so that way I don't have to move my hand. My hand is always fixed, so I only move one finger, sorry. And in the other way, also I just use like a Wacom tablet. So that way I can use the mouse because this movement that causes my pain, you know.
So I think this is going to take a little bit of doing to figure out
Oh, is that it?
which of these is lightest, which of these is darkest. I'll have to maybe run through them and try and notate. But you said they're one exposure stop away from each
Just find
other?
the
or-
middle one. Just find the middle one.
I think it's, let's see.
Hey, can you email us that?
Of course.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I'll merge it and then just email it. Well, where do we
Should be able to, can you just look at the icons and figure that out? Just like look at the icons in Windows?
Unfortunately, not in Windows 7. If I look here, they're numbered.
If you don't look at this list, if you look at icons or
Oh, I see what you're talking about, like large.
large icons, you can sort of figure that out. Just call
I
the
guess you think
brightest
this is
one.
middle,
Well, just go to the brightest one, call out the second.
brighter, and actually no, I think this is middle, right? Because then we got,
Why bother just figuring it
So
out?
the
Just
brighter
call
is-
that one 1, call the next brightest one 2, call the next brightest one 3, and that way you're done.
Just call it +4, for example. You know that the middle one will be 0. So the brighter one, just put +4.
this
Then-
one,
Yeah.
+4.
And then the other one is +3.
You're saying,
Change it to get out of icons and you can optimize.
you think
You wanna see-
you think this is +3?
Yeah, it's like one step down, right?
Okay, and
So
you
then
think
+2.
+2. This one would be +1. And then what do you think? This one?
Yeah.
This would be 0. 0. And then
The next one is the one over.
this guy is like -1. and then -2. This must be riveting for people on the line. Sorry guys, this is totally unplanned, but
No worries. I'm playing with the raise your hand feature in the Zoom chat tool.
Nice. What are you doing, Sterling? To maybe get content here.
Zoom's free?
Yeah.
all right. Let's generate an HDI. Here, let's close this one just so we don't get confused.
I think I heard about Zoom. If it's free, it is for meetings and everything. And hosting, you get like 40 minutes, and then it closes itself out. But if you want to host like 50+ people, then you have to pay for a room. And I like it because it's permanent. It's like a persistent URL, so everyone has like one place to join. And the quality is honestly really good. We've never had any trouble with it.
Right now we're just using Skype, but if Zoom is better, I don't know.
I'd recommend it, just mostly the fact that we've never had any trouble. It runs really, really well, and it looks great. You know,
You ever use SVN for any of your work?
we tried SVN. Actually, we still kind of do use it, but it's a mixture now of Dropbox and this app called ODrive. But we've used SVN. It's just slow. There's a lot of slow, especially on a network attached storage. I like SVN, but it unfortunately is just really slow once your folders start to get really big.
6 exposure values. That's pretty good actually. 6.71, almost 7. Let's see where it defaults to. Defaults to 0.5. Let's go ahead and save as. Go ahead and save that as an OpenEXR. We'll call it LA.Blend 2016-05-14 meeting.
You still have that blend file with the reflective sphere in it? You can probably just recreate it in 5 seconds.
I'm going to say the awesome LA.Blend meeting crew.
I have to say that I wish you guys were more east, but then again, it's pretty nice out here in Marina Del Rey. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm not gonna just like try and jump in my car and go back to the crappy place I lived at. I'm gonna go outside and walk around a little bit, I suppose. Yeah, I'm here. Saturday. Nice day out.
Yeah, so there you go.
Wow.
So I probably should have checked the ghost removal, which in this tool stops things like this. See how obviously I moved a little bit at some point. Either that or we had some seismic activity here that it wasn't feeling. But yeah. Yeah, I love the plug you're giving right there. That's awesome.
Can you screen share it? Can we see it?
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Are we not screen sharing? Oh, my bad. Gosh, you suffered through me doing all that HDR modification. So what we did was we're using a tool called PictureNot, and we just imported all, 9 JPEG files, and then it merges it into a single HDRI, and then we could save it out as a .exr, and then, of course, we brought it into Blender through the world background feature. So
Stick like a reflective sphere in there. See what
yeah, let's do that. Well, first of all, let's just take this.
Can you like rotate a little bit so I could see some people? I'd like to.
Sure. Here's the group. That's you on the screen. There you go. Captured. Immortalizer Sam. It looks like he's leaning on a giant DVD clip, but he looks like he's tiny, like a hobbit. Then there we go. Tony. Awesome. Gang's all here. All right, yeah, let's give this a nice reflective material here. Let's call it glossy with 0 roughness. So if we zoom in.
As a, I don't know, like a beige type of light.
Come on. What's going on here? Oh, what's going on? Usually shift middle mouse button. Oh yeah, maybe I was just pressing the wrong
Now,
button.
is that the render preview or is that the PBR?
That is rendered view. This is material view. You know what? I can't remember if I'm using. I can't remember if I'm using actually the PBR branch now or not. I may be on the regular one. So probably better.
Oh, I see.
They have a short tail and short arms.
What?
Realistic material. There we go. Yeah, there you go. So now we could rotate it nice, quick. See.
Wow.
Woo. How awesome is that? Should we map it to? I think we need to map ourselves onto Suzanne, right? That's the true. That's the true test. Let's add a monkey here.
You know, I first started this when you first started doing this, Sterling. I don't know if you remember me back in those days, but we've got a long way. There's a lot of like interesting integration going on here.
Let's just even her out. Let's give her subsurf. Give her smooth shading. Let's also, let's see, give her the same material. There we go. See if we can see ourselves in Suzanne.
You'd probably be able to see better at the back of the head.
Yeah,
It's true. Yeah, we went
Yeah,
here.
somewhat spherical.
Rotate the 180.
Can you control the
Oh, there you
roughness
see.
on this PBR,
Control the what?
the roughness?
You can, yeah. So like if I go over to roughness and give it like a 0.5. Oops, that's a little too heavy. Hold on, let's go 0.05. Yeah, in fact,
So it's using the same
Something I've
index
never
as
heard
its
of.
second. So if you
I'm-
do 0.5 or whatever, and if you go into the render mode, it's going to show.
oh yeah, let's try it. 0.05, okay. Let's go rendered. Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, you can absolutely map like a normal map or noise textures or whatever you wanted onto this reflection. And,
Even using the thread now?
yeah, as a matter of fact, if you're using the Unreal Engine, I guess you'd call it an Uber shader, that he includes, has the, so standard Fresnel works, but in his Uber shader, he's got the PBR Fresnel from Cinecat Pro. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a more physically accurate Fresnel. So yeah, it absolutely works. So cool, guys. Well, that was a fun experiment.
Yeah.
Look at that. We're in a monkey. All right. So I think we're coming to the end of our meeting. Unless anybody else has anything else, I suggest we go next door and go grab like a sandwich and a beer or enjoy some of this. Looks like we got some sunshine going outside.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having us, and have a good one. We'll see each other hopefully for SIGGRAPH.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
Alrighty.
Catch you guys at the next one.